Hi, I'm Nick Park, and I'm Director of Evangelical Alliance Ireland, and one of the pastors at the Solid Rock Church in Drogheda. At the moment, we're all rather restricted in our movements, and the roads are almost empty. But in the normal run of things, I frequently drive the back roads from my home in the village of Drammin, County Louth, to our church buildings in Drogheda. And en route, I pass a large country house where, a few years back, they started a gin distillery. They produce small batch gin, essentially a craft gin. And according to people who know more about gin than I do, they're extraordinarily good at it, winning a number of awards. Now, when this coronavirus crisis began to really intensify, I overheard my wife Janice making arrangements to call in at the distillery. And I said, things must be getting really bad if you're going to start hitting the gin. No, she replied, they've started to make hand sanitizer, which makes perfect sense because alcohol is the main ingredient in both gin and hand sanitizer. So the distillery decided to convert their production at a time of impending national crisis. And I'm delighted to say they sell the hand sanitizer at cost price without making any profit. Now, the idea of converting one thing to something else, it's as old as the hills. In the Old Testament, the prophet Isaiah looked forward to better days ahead when people would turn their swords into plowshares. In the words of the old African-American spiritual, I ain't going to study war no more. Isaiah's words are commemorated by a dramatic statue outside the United Nations headquarters in New York, depicting a worker battering a sword with a hammer and bending it into the shape of a plowshare. Sometimes the conversion of one thing into something else has been much less beneficial. In Nazi Germany, Joseph Goebbels famously exhorted the population to throw their energy into weapons production rather than food production. Guns before butter, he declared. But today we are seeing some good conversions. Gin into hand sanitizer. A famous vacuum cleaner company managed to design and start producing ventilators in only 10 days. Luxury clothing manufacturers are converting their high-end designer raincoats into face masks for health workers. The word conversion used to be very common among the religious tradition to which I belong, Evangelical Christianity. People would stand up in meetings and share their testimony of how they were converted. Today it sounds old-fashioned, and you would rarely hear it in a religious context, except maybe in sarcastic comments or poking fun at religion. But in other areas, we still talk about conversions. Those of us who follow the Irish rugby team, oh, how long ago that seems, we know the difference that a conversion can make when a try is scored. Converting those 5 points into 7 points can be the difference between victory and defeat. The present national crisis means a lot of us are spending more time than usual at home. And that often means thinking about things more deeply, reassessing what's important and re-examining our priorities. Maybe conversions aren't just for the Johnny Sextons of this world, or even just for the gin distilleries, vacuum cleaner people, or luxury designers. Maybe we all need a bit of a conversion. Look, I'm not talking about changing our affiliation or leaving one church and joining another. Jesus called his disciples to become fishers of men, not to switch fish from one aquarium to another. I'm talking about a real conversion, one that takes place on the inside rather than the outside. Because it wouldn't actually do a lot of good if we tried harder and changed our way of living only for everything inside to stay the same. 39 years ago, I was in need of a conversion. I was homeless. and in the grip of a fierce addiction to alcohol. I used to sit on the street and beg for money. And many people would have assumed that I just needed to pull myself together and change my behavior. But my real problem was inside. I really didn't like myself, and I really didn't believe that I was capable of making a change. And then I made a discovery. I realized that God loved me, and that he loved me so much that he sent Jesus to die on a cross for me. And I really was converted in the best sense of the word. I became a different person inside, and everything changed outside as well. It wasn't just a case of saying, oh, well, I'll try something different. I'll stop being an atheist and become a Christian instead. No, receiving God's love for me made a difference inside, a real honest-to-God conversion. And now I could learn to love myself and to love other people as well. So next time you pick up a bottle of hand sanitizer that before its conversion from gin was destined to be mixed with tonic, a few cubes of ice and a slice of lime, it might be a good time to ask God, what could my life look like if I let you do a work of conversion in me?